Hey everyone, we got some major action happening in the last couple of days, this past week on the stock market. I know a lot of you guys have a lot of money in the markets, and a lot of you kind of wondering what's going on. We know it's something to do with the tariffs. We know some of the uncertainty has to do with trade wars, other things. I thought we'd bring in a subject matter expert here. So I brought in Jonathan from Genesis Gold Group. How you doing, Jonathan?
I'm very, very well, Steve. Thank you for having me back on. Always a pleasure.
Well, you're mostly in gold, so you're doing pretty good right now. But I know a lot of our audience is really asking a lot of questions about the stock market and things. And I know you're tied in stuff. You used to do stuff with some of the investment banks, more on the precious metal side, right? But definitely kind of know a lot of the insider stuff, what's going on. So I'd really like to just pick your brain for the next few minutes and help answer some of the questions that our audience has right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to help. I started my career on the London Metal Exchange and was very fortunate enough to work for some AAA rated big American banks, Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, Prudential-based securities. And obviously that was more on the commercial side, on the corporate side. But now later in life, I've switched to the retail side, which is like obviously people like you and I. So it's really kind of served me well to have that base to understand, corporate banking structure on why they're purchasing gold. And then the other side of the record, obviously, is the retail market and what's the driving force behind people, interested in purchasing assets like gold and silver.
Yeah, just in the last 2 weeks, I've been giving people some warnings about the market. I said some things have started changing. The narrative has changed inside this, and I know with the numbers and everything, it shouldn't be about story, but the story of the market really drives a lot of stuff. We've seen a lot of people kind of running for cover the last couple of months, haven't we?
There's been some major headlines that have been happening that we can obviously talk about. One, and we can revisit it, is the Fort Knox. Is gold there? Is it not there? And obviously followed up with President Trump with the address to the nation, not quite a State of the Union, but an address to the nation. And he's just flat out told America that expect short-term pain to mid-term pain for long-term gain. And what he means by this is because of these tariffs that he's imposing on Mexico, on Canada, even China, we are entering into an era of trade wars, which is going to cause a lot of uncertainty, a lot of inflation, possibly hyperinflation. And we're already seeing the pain in the market. We've seen some very volatile drops in the Dow Jones, in the S&P. And unfortunately, Steve, when that happens, the bearer of that bad news is people like us who have IRAs and 401ks, where our retirements are attached to those markets. So, I expect a 15 to 20% correction here shortly, just in the S&P 500. When you look at the trade wars that's currently happening, specifically with Canada and Mexico, they need us more than we need them, right? When you look at the GDP of how much products that we receive from them that accumulate to our gross domestic products in the US, it's only 2%. So getting into a trade war financially with America is not a good idea because they are like a blip or throwing a pebble in the ocean. We're really not going to feel it. But unfortunately, our pocketbooks, our investments are going to feel it, but not the nation as a whole. But when you look at, Canada and Mexico, and you look at their GDP and how much they rely on American revenue, well, now you're looking at 20 to 30%. So it's going to be a big hit for them. And it's not like we're buying cars from Canada, right? It's not like we even need their oil. We don't need their lumber. We have our own forest, as President Trump said. So really, this is about really bringing manufacturing back to the US, bringing back the economy, bringing jobs, a trickle-down effect. And I actually think it's a great idea. I just think I agree with President Trump that the short term is going to be a bumpy road, but the outcome is really literally about making America great again. And we've seen the stories about this waste under the Biden administration of what they're spending money on, like spending money on experimenting with transgender mice and crazy stuff that were just like, it's almost, when he was reading out the list, people were laughing, and rightly so. And other countries were laughing at us. And when you have these Democrats that can't support him, love him or hate him, you can't deny the fact that he's saving taxpayers billions of dollars. And that money needs to be focused in our country, in infrastructure, paying our teachers, our police force, our firefighters. So it's going to take a while for this to accumulate. It's like a big cruise ship turning around a 360. It's going to take time. And during that time, we're going to experience some significant pain in the financial markets. And that has what we call the fear index at an all-time high. Now, I mentioned very briefly, Steve, that my background was in the corporate side and the retail side. And what I'm noticing is that the fear and greed index, it's almost like the banking cartel and the corporations are more scared than the retail market. Yeah. And that's why they are buying monstrous amounts of the yellow metal. But the retail market, even though there's a desire for the precious metals, I really think people need to not be like an ostrich, bury their head in the sand, so to speak, and understand what's being said. We don't have a crystal ball, but we have a very good roadmap. And with what we're seeing come to fruition and the short-term roadmap, it's very important to have safety, security, and a hedge. And you can achieve all this by owning physical precious metals. And in my opinion, particularly in a retirement vehicle like an IRA or 401k.
Yeah, I mean, people have a number of different options right now. One is to just hope it all gets better and just stay in the stock market and bonds, which I keep warning people about. That I think it's just this past month was if you were invested in the stock market, I believe it was in Germany, they in 2000, it just finally got back up to where it was in 2000. So it took 25 years for their stock market to get back. Japan had a similar situation where they lost about 25, 30 years as well before their stock market got back to where it was. And so it's not unforeseeable that our stock market doesn't get back to where it was today until 25 years from now or more. And that's possible. And so you can hide there, but the smart people aren't doing that right now. We got Warren Buffett sitting in cash. He's got a bigger cash pile than he's ever had before. And we see countries moving into precious metals. The central banks, the people who really know what they're doing, they're getting out of U.S. treasuries. They're getting into gold. They're getting into silver. And that's I know we here in the preparedness community have been preaching about precious metals for a long time. I'm a big believer in them, and that's why we interact a lot. But what are you seeing with individuals right now? You guys get a lot of calls from people. What are like retail people thinking right now when they're talking about their IRAs, 401ks? What's their concerns? What are they thinking?
Well, a lot of people who are watching the news and reading between the lines, they're looking to protect what they have. They're adamant with the same kind of thought as us. A crash is imminent, right? A lot of these stocks are overvalued. You mentioned Warren Buffett, and I'll just kind of talk about that quickly because this is something a lot of retail investors have noticed, that last year he was selling copious amounts of stock in Bank of America and Apple. Well, the first time ever, now he's selling his S&P ETFs, which means that he believes that the S&P is going to go down. So he's offloading the exposure ETFs to that market. So
That's lot of major broad market S&P 500.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people are kind of saying, well, interesting. He's not just selling, the Magnificent Seven tech stock. He's actually selling stock in betting that the market's, going to take a hit. So, you really have to kind of understand the broader scope of what's happening in our nation right now. And really, we're not only are we due for a correction, but it could be a significant correction. And when that happens, sometimes people say to me, well, gold's going to skyrocket. I want to go into gold. I'm almost would rather stop those people and say, look, this isn't why you invest in gold. Okay. You invest in gold, not for today, but for what happens in the next 6 to 12 months. With everything that's happening domestically and internationally, the price of gold systematically will continue to rise. It's kind of like a byproduct, but your mindset, the psychology behind this is that you should be doing this for preservation of wealth, protect against inflation, protect against downturn, protect against currency valuation. And that kind of brings me back around to kind of talking about the Fort Knox, because a lot of clients are hearing that that President Trump has anointed, Elon Musk with his big chainsaw to kind of kick the doors down and go into Fort Knox. And is there any gold there? Now, I know we've spoken to you about this before, and I kind of took some heat for talking about this, but I did know someone that was the former U.S. Mint director. I take it at face value when he says he's seen the gold there. Does it mean all the gold's there? This is the question that needs to be asked, because a couple of red flags have really come up to date, and that's when you look at J.P. Morgan. Why are they flying in jumbo jets worth of gold? And in fact, these big banks are flying in more gold from Europe and London into New York than they've ever done in history. If you were to flash a graph of the cumulative gold holdings for these banks, it's the disparity from how it was 5 years ago till today. It's absolutely ginormous. So there's a lot of rumors in the rumor mill on the street that President Trump's already spoken to Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, and it's almost like a don't ask, don't tell policy right now. I don't care if the gold's not there; it better be there when we get to Fort Knox. So
I just saw a number that was crazy. I just saw a number that came out. It was the trade deficit between the United States and Switzerland, which I know we eat some of their chocolates, but we don't do that much trade with Switzerland. And it was just like the trade deficit with Switzerland was off the charts for last month. And it was because apparently we just bought a ton, and by a ton, I mean many tons of gold from Switzerland just last month. So it wasn't just London getting drained. It was Switzerland. Their Swiss banks are getting drained of gold as well. People who have money know something's going down, and there's a reason why Mark Zuckerberg built a bunker under his house.
Yeah, there's a lot of chatter about what's going on, why they're flying in this gold. Now, when they have an interview with these big bankers on Reuters, on Bloomberg, they say, oh, it's an arbitrage strategy by buying it cheaper and settling it in New York. Now, even if you're buying the gold 20 cents cheaper, maybe let's say $5 cheaper, $10 cheaper, you're telling me with the amount of weight that gold is to spend in jet fuel what it takes to transfer that high of a tonnage. This isn't like a few ounces, folks. This is tonnage of gold. I mean, the cost is astronomical. So they're flying it here, in my opinion, not because they're arbitraging a few cents off discount in Europe, because that money would be blasted away as soon as you pay for jumbo jet fuel. So there's a reason why they're flying in all this gold, and it's almost getting back to what I said, the fear and greed index. Like the banks, I'm noticing, especially people I know who work for corporate and are still on the exchange, they're moving these delivery good bars. They can't keep them in the vaults, and there's a shortage of them, and they're flying all across the world, particularly right now to America. So do what the central banks are doing. There's something going on that's not being made apparent, whether or not all the gold is in there. And in fact, if they do go to Fort Knox, they should be definitely taking a gold testing kit with them. We want to make sure people aren't there. I've seen a lot of memes with some Home Depot people with some yellow paint, painting some tungsten, some
some of
bricks.
those memes going around.
And another one I love, because eggs, right, are so expensive. Eggs are going to be 40% more expensive by the year end, so there's no gold in Fort Knox. It's just egg crates, right? So that was another one that made me laugh. So the bottom line is a lot of instability. We don't know what's happening with Fort Knox, and whether the gold's there or not there, it's going to have a positive effect on the net price of gold, because the price of gold in our US Treasury holdings at Fort Knox hasn't been reevaluated since the pre-1970s. It's on the books at $42.20 per ounce.
Yeah.
Why is that? So even if the gold is there, the next question is going to be, well, why don't we reevaluate the price of this gold to help knock off some of our national debt? So, it's
just a reminder that gold used to cost $42 an ounce.
It sure doesn't anymore.
It doesn't cost that much anymore.
So, there's a lot of shenanigans going on. I think they're sweeping a lot of economic uncertainty under the rug, but the people in the know. And if you're a retail investor, that's why I say, don't be like an ostrich, bury your head in the sand. Now is the time to do something, because we are the ones who have these IRAs, these 401ks, they're tied to the market, right? Warren Buffett's saying the market's going to go down. President Trump saying that because of these tariff wars, things are going to get worse before they get better. So you want to be proactive. You don't want to be reactive. That's another common phrase I hear when people call it, is they want to get ahead of this, because last year, 2023, I think it was actually, when First Republic Bank went under, and you had the small regional banks collapsing, it was like a stampede of elephants trying to squeeze through a small door, trying to protect the IRAs. And you don't want to do that. The price of gold has a proven track record. In my opinion, it's going to continue to go up. I'm very, very bullish on silver right now, which we can also talk about. And now's the time to diversify, your retirement holdings and hold precious metals.
Well, I mean, I haven't made a secret of it on this channel. I don't own a single ounce of gold, and but let's just say I have a few bits of silver here and there. First rule of Silver Club is don't talk about Silver Club, right? But one thing that I haven't heard much about out there, but I've heard in some of the silver community, is something like this is an APMEX round, which is just basically just a generic silver 1 ounce coin. It's not done by a country, but it's something like 90% of the silver used in bullion in the U.S. comes from Mexico. And there's no cutout in the tariffs, the 25% tariffs for silver coming from Mexico. So the silver that's sitting inside the United States that's been imported from Mexico is what it is. No one's going to import 25% more expensive silver from Mexico in the near term. So I would not be surprised to see mints and bullion stampers out there start running out of silver shot to put into things like you guys partner up with what, Sunshine Mint?
Sunshine Mint. Our silver is mined and minted in the USA, and that's something we're very proud of. Especially for sourcing. So if you're in the prepper community, you'll probably recognize this because these have gone pretty viral. This is our prepper bar. Comes in silver and gold, but you can break off pieces.
I love
of
these things. These things are
perforated bars, and these are 1/4 ounce, 1/10 of an ounce, 1/20 of an ounce. I call it wealth in your wallet. I'm not sure if my wallet's around here. Here it is. Here's my wallet, and it literally is specifically designed to put it to go into your wallet. So it's wealth in your wallet if you're in a situation and credit cards aren't working, cashless society, you can rely on real currency such as silver and use this in case of emergency. And not only that, these are easy to stack, Steve. That's why people like them as well. They're portable, they're easy to stack, and they can also go in your IRA.
Yeah, I think I heard you say that the silver is mined in the U.S., but before, I guess it didn't really matter all that much. But I guess right now it does matter a lot more because like APMEX, they use Mexican silver, and most of the other bullion guys use Mexican silver as well, and they're not going to be able to get that soon. So if people are wanting to stock up on silver, at least in the near term, they might need to get out there and get to their local coin shops. If they want to get in their IRA, they need to get with you and your folks to talk about that soon, because they need to grab a hold of that silver before it disappears. But not so many issues with the gold just yet. But if we do see tariffs get placed on Europe, that may impact gold availability too. That might be what some of these people moving their gold from Europe to the United States might be doing, is trying to get ahead of those tariffs. But whatever it is, we definitely got a lot of movement inside the precious metals markets. And a lot of uncertainty out there. And markets don't like uncertainty.
Really, they don't. And, when we look at what's happening here internationally and domestically, it's all flashing to like buy me when you start looking at commodities that are considered a safe haven. And that's why people move to a safe haven. And, when people call in and they're saying, does my IRA qualify, or how does this work? it's always good to kind of ask these questions because people want to know, well, how do I protect my IRA? Do I pay taxes on it? And the answer to that is no, it's a tax-free rollover. So whether you're holding onto cash investments that are underproducing, or your assets are tied to an IRA or 401k, now's the time, I would say, to get an education. I know, Steve, I was talking to you that Genesis Gold Group, we have the investor library, and I do my best to kind of find out questions that people are asking us about maybe particular products or how transactions work. And then we'll put together these ebooks that people can download for free, educate themselves, and then ask us the right questions so we can make some really, some good recommendations to them, because I truly believe the time to act on precious metals is now. And I know you're about to put it up.
Got your website up there.
That's my friend Neil.
You got the investor library right here, resources and stuff.
Yeah, and we add to this quite often. We've got 2 new ebooks that are coming out. So you can, once you sign up, you'll get them automatically. Obviously, here we have the Trump effect, why silver is set to soar in 2025. It's very interesting on silver. I watched a video yesterday evening, and it was with Eric Sprott. And a lot of people may not know who Eric Sprott is. But he is like the Warren Buffett in the commodity sector. And he is very, doesn't give crazy predictions. He's very conservative. That's the word I was looking for. And he's talking about, silver has the potential to reach $200 to $500 an ounce. And I almost fell off my chair listening to this interview, because I've said to people, $50 to $75 an ounce. And if you listen to why, a lot of it has also to do with what you're talking about, supply and demand. Demand is soaring, especially on the industrial level for silver, right? You look at solar panels, electronics, military grade. Silver right now is outstripping supply. No new silver mines have been found. So in the next couple of years, we are going to get to the point where we're going to see premiums shoot up just based on supply and demand. I think that's going to happen a lot sooner because of tariffs. And again, like you mentioned, nobody's going to be paying tariffs on imported metals. So, again, reading between the lines, if people are smart enough to kind of tap into that vein and understand that, hey, look, everything's going to become more expensive. I like to buy USA branded products anyway, but the premiums on anything being imported into this country, especially when you look at silver, especially when the majority of that silver is coming from Mexico, there's going to be now a hefty premium on this silver coming across the border. And who wants to pay a premium? So, there's going to be kind of, they say there's something that's just started happening, and it's going to pick up steam, and you're going to hear it from me first. People have been saying silver is the new gold. And I kind of love that title. Silver is the new gold, right? And I think this is going to become very evident here, very quickly forward moving.
I think the biggest thing for me is this. I think I got this around like $27, $28 for the ounce. This is 1 ounce of silver. But the simple fact is I paid US dollars for this. And whether the price of silver goes up or the price of silver goes down, I still own this. It's something. It's something I can hold in my hand, something I can feel. I own this. People have ETFs, have all these investments in stocks and bonds, but they don't have something that they can say, I own this. And I think that's the thing that sold me so much on the IRAs with you guys. Is that you actually invest in actual physical coins, bars. It's not abstract. It's not some computer screen mumbo jumbo. It's actual metal that belongs to you. Yeah. You take the distribution out of the IRA, you get it. And I really wish more people would hear that they can play the games of banks and bankers on the stock market and bonds, but you're going to lose every time. The house is stacked against you. And actually purchasing something you understand and you can hold and touch is I think, the difference. And I think that's the wise thing to do. I think that's the biblical and just, I think it's the moral thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've always been a believer, if you can't hold it or you can't touch it, then you don't own it, right? And there are different ways to own gold and silver. There's ETFs, like you just mentioned, electronically traded funds, and you're getting exposure to the spot price. Well, at that point, get exposure to any stock, right? Because you're not physically ticking that box of having the necessary tangible asset in your hand. And that's been around since the dawn of time. You know, the biggest problem we had is when we came off of the gold standard and we went to free trade and the printing presses started going into overdrive. And then lo and behold, we're over $36 trillion in debt. It's a natural disaster that's about to take place. And even Elon Musk is talking about, we're at the precipice here of a fiscal cliff of digital of paper fiat money just disappearing. They always have a lifespan, and the US dollar, I'm afraid, is very near the end of that lifespan. And if we can't pay off this trade deficit, and don't get me wrong, they are doing a lot to cut government expenditure, but we need to do more. You know, Social Security, you know, by 2030, it's going to run out of money. Even Elon Musk said it's the biggest Ponzi scheme that's out there. People are now living longer, right? There just isn't the money there. Where is this money coming from?
Some are living 360 years old too. In the Social Security.
Well, yeah, there's people 300 years old collecting checks. So go figure.
All right. Well, Jonathan, it's been a pleasure having you on. Folks, if you want to find out more about what you can do with Genesis Gold, if you want to talk to Jonathan and his team, down in the pinned comment down below the video, you can find their phone number. You can find their website. If you reach out to them directly, make sure you do mention this channel because they do waive your setup fee if you do that. There'll also be on the screen a link right between us that you can tap on and fill out your information, and they'll get in contact with you. If you want to request some of those ebooks or information, if you have some questions about that, they'd love to talk to you and answer your questions and see if it's a good fit. Because it's not a good fit for everybody, is it?
Everyone has different agendas. And I always say to people, start off with an education and see, like you said, is this a fit? Does this make sense for you? Like compared to where you are, does it make sense to have a diversified portfolio? I mean, I may be a little bit biased because I've been doing this, for over 25 years. And I think gold and silver is an integral part of a balanced portfolio. So, you know, I definitely say get the education, give us a call, and more than happy to help your audience, Dave.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining with us. And we'll keep you guys updated on what's going on with the markets as things go forward here too. But hopefully you guys are staying safe and getting some good advice out there. If you want to get some more information from Jonathan, click on the link right between us on the screen, and then you can have them reach out and contact you. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up top. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar and Jonathan saying adios.